let's see, so Bridget just joined. Hey, Bridget. That will allow her to actually let people in as I'm presenting, or as yeah, I'm covering things. But in any event, thank you everybody for joining us today. A lot of you actually reached out. When I posted about some virtual assistants that I found, we had a bevy of awesome applicants. What I felt, because we come from this kind of communal standpoint, it's important to kind of share your successes, and it's kind of a mutual benefit thing there. If we're not going to be using virtual assistants, but we've already vetted them, share them with the community. So what I didn't expect was such an outreach of interest and people who were interested in some of the scoring and the vetting processes, the evaluation processes, and the interview processes. I got a lot of questions about where to find them, what to do. So what I did was actually reach out to a few guys who happen to be geniuses when it comes to finding virtual assistants. As a matter of fact, with our processes, with our company Maid here, a cleaning company here in Arizona, Ryan, Greg, and Cristobal, I reached out to each of these guys, and they each have, whether they know it or not, a component that's kind of influenced our processes and allowed us to continually refine it. So with that, when you guys were asking questions, I'm like, let's go straight to the source. And I brought these guys together, and then they were all happy to come in here and share information for you. So the way that's going to work, it's going to be about an hour and a half. We'll each have about 20 minutes to speak. Do 10 or 15 minutes and to speaking, and then about 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A for each of us. What I'm going to do is do a general overview of our process from beginning to end. It's not going to be too formal. I didn't go balls to the wall with my slides like I usually do, but I'm just going to be skimming the surface, because each one of these guys is going to go further in depth about certain aspects of it, and they could explain it far better than I could. So with that, we can go ahead and jump right in. There we go. Okay. All right. Everybody let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see it now.
Perfect. All right. So this is how to find, where to search, how to vet your virtual assistants. And this is kind of a quick and dirty guide. Like I said, I'm just skimming the surface. Of course, the way that I'm going to show you is a manual process, and these guys can actually show you much better ways to do these. Much more integrated, implementing, spreadsheets, tracking, ATSs. You can even use Jotform, but we'll get to that. So just want to go over today's speakers. Ryan, he's going to go next. He's going to talk about the email test. It's a way to really establish if your candidate is empathetic. There's also a bunch of other juicy bits in there, at least the way I use it, to kind of surmise some things about their personality, their ability to deliver quality customer service, have empathy, all sorts of things. Greg, he actually offers a ton of content on his blog, where he talks about how to find and vet VAs and search in places that most people have never thought of. And then Cristobal, he actually has a pretty stellar process for actually tracking and sorting, really filtering down, reducing your workload as much as possible. So with that, let me just go through an outline. So what you're going to need to do with your process is you're going to need to define your needs and requirements and your benefits when you're looking for a virtual assistant. You're going to need to know your platform. You're going to want to craft the job post. You want to start interacting with your candidates. You want to do your evaluation and filtering. Then you want to start your interview, do your final selection, and then offer the job. All right. So going back into that, the first part, when you're defining your needs, your requirements, and your benefits, right? So this is our job post, super wordy or whatever, but it's not really important to read this. It's what what you want to focus on is you want to take a them-centric approach. It's about customer service when you're looking for a VA. You want to ask yourself, how can you best word your post and ask what's in it for them? So you want to be cognizant of their traditions as far as bonuses. If you're hiring Filipino VAs, there's something called a 13th month. In Ecuador, there's something that's sort of like the equivalent of two 13th months. One you pay in July, that's a month of pay, and then one you pay in December, again, that's a month of pay. So knowing your platform, that's also important. So where to post, you got Online Jobs PH, I've been there. I found VAs on Upwork, and then recently with the slow of VAs that I shared, we found them on a site called Remote Co. So I'd never heard of Remote Co before then, but just based on what I was looking for, VA specifically in South America, that actually turned up pretty good search results. And I jumped on there, I tested the waters, it was free. And then to interact with people, you know, I was paid. I figured I'd pay for it just to test it out, to give feedback to everybody, to kind of enrich us collectively as local service business owners. So the differences in a platform, knowing your platform, it's like you have to know your audience. The formatting may be different. You have to look at the platform level filtering. For instance, if anybody's been on Online Jobs PH, there's like a score, you can go 70%, 80%, 90% proficiency, or English level, and I'll get more into that. Then you have, you know, at self-administered versus platform administered skills assessments. Some people say, hey, you know, I'm a 5-star in everything, virtual assistants, Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Office, whatever. And then, you know, they'll test themselves, and it's like they'll test the 62%. So you have to kind of know the differences. All right. So, and then what you want to do is actually optimize these posts at the beginning, because what you're going to run into is like the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's going to kick you in the teeth. You might not be familiar with it. It's like the people who are not the most qualified think they're overqualified. So if you don't optimize and filter, then you're going to have a ton of people who come in and apply who are not even ideal applicants. And then you're going to have to sort through them if you're doing this the quick and dirty way. And let's see, my first post on Online Jobs, I think there was like 1,700 candidates, and I went through every single one of them. So it's absolutely important. I can't underscore the importance of that. So the next thing you want to do is craft a job post. Again, you want to make considerations for all of the above. What you may have to do is slightly alter it for each platform. So it's kind of like a resume. Think of it that way. You have a boilerplate template, right? And then you just modify it slightly for each job, you know, to actually be targeted towards that. So that goes back to theme-centric messaging. It's customer service. You still need to put your best foot forward, right? A lot of these platforms actually have anti-spam mechanisms in place that actually protect you from getting bombarded with tens of thousands of applicants who may or may not be qualified. But they typically do this by giving each worker a finite number of credits to apply, right? So what this does, on the other hand, is creates a dynamic where they become more selective about which jobs they apply to. And that's why you should have an eye-catching title. That's why you should have, just go back to this, that's why you should have a really dynamic post. You should seem like a dynamic company, great to work for. So we say amazing administrative coordinator needed for a fast growing US residential service company. You know, we say when we were founded, you know, 2017, 11 to 100 workers, and then, you know, a little bit of bragging about ourselves. We're one of the top residential cleaning services in Phoenix, Arizona, locally owned business, rapidly growing. You know, make people think that you're a place that they can work for that's going to be in business in a year from now, right? You kind of make them want to drool at the opportunity. So after that, what you want to do is start interacting with your candidates, right? And you'll need to have some messaging in place, right? So you're going to want to have some messaging in place to actually invite people who you've already pre-vetted as stellar candidates. Like, come to my job, post a link there. You want to use your favorites feature. Typically, it might be a star or a bookmark or something like that. This right here is, I can barely see it, it's the bookmark, but different platforms, different icons. And you want to mark those people because it's going to be easy to forget, right? You're going to need messaging for processing delays, specifically because you might have a day job while you're running your service business on the side, right? Or just because life happens and you may be gone for 3 days and the applicants are worried and you're just like, oh, is this job still up? So you want to have that in place. You need to met some certain messaging to make it clear that certain candidates are not qualified whatsoever and then they're completely out of the running. Then you need some messaging for those who are not right for the current position, but you may want to leave the door kind of open for future positions. And I did that with a few people that I actually shared that didn't make our cut. And then lastly, you want to have some messaging for those who actually made your final running. They were top 3, top 5 or something like that, but they were not selected. What you want to do is actually keep the door open because you may need them as your business grows in the future, or in case your first pick doesn't work out. Things happen, right? So the next step after that, evaluation and filtering, right? And this is where a lot of you asked the questions that I was talking about with, I did the voice test, I did the email test, then we do an interview. Of course, the interview is the next step, the final selection and you offer the job. So with the actual voice test, this one is a great barometer of understanding what they're going to sound like when they're on the spot. That voice test tests a few things. One, you ask, just give me a voice sample. And what I say specifically, and I think I've shared it, but I'll share it again. I want you to give me, a voice sample of you speaking candidly, more than 20 seconds, no more than a minute. It's okay if you go over a little bit, but just speak candidly about yourself. And what you're looking for is these people who've posted on their profile, hey, I do everything perfectly. I can speak to customers perfectly. I'm the most awesome person in the world. Well, I want you to prove it. Secondly, I don't give them much context. I say, give me a voice sample. It's up to them to figure out how to do it. Some people use a site called Vocaroo, where they record the voice on that site and then they paste the link. Some people will record their voice locally on a computer, upload it to Google Drive and send the link. Some people will say, hey, there's nowhere I can send my voice. I don't know how to do it. That right there is something that you're testing for, right? These people have to be proficient at using systems. And your business, your online business, your younger business, you had systems. And if they can't figure that part out, then they're not technologically proficient enough to even get further beyond that. They're not going to be able to use your booking software, right? So some people will actually share their link on Google Drive. And again, that's one thing I'm testing because, on Google Drive, you actually have to make it publicly shareable. So I click that link and then I can't get through. I'll send a link like, hey, I can't access it. I'll give them no additional context. If they can't surmise, oh, hey, my sharing settings are busted or something, or go back and troubleshoot, that's what I'm testing, then again, they may not be the right candidate. And for the people who just back out or quit, or it's too hard for them and they get the feedback and they still can't act on it, good, that's helping you in your filtering process. Just go ahead and get rid of it, right? So after that, if they pass the voice sample and they sound good, oh, and another thing is you have people who will tell you, okay, I'll send you the voice sample. Give me a second. And then they'll respond 2 days later with this like completely rehearsed recording. It's like, that's not what I was asking you to do, to write a performance or whatever. Like, I want you to speak candidly because you're going to be speaking to my prospects. You're going to be speaking to my customers. I need you to make small talk. I need you to break the ice. I need you to build rapport. You can't do this very simple thing. Again, you're filtered out. So the next step, right, is that they pass that email test. And then I'm just going to skim it because Ryan's going to go into depth on that. But everybody on their profile, they say, like I told you, they say they're 5 stars at this. They say they're the best at XYZ and they do all this and that. And they say, everybody's resume, or at least us millennials and older, we're like, we're proficient in Microsoft Office. That's what everybody's resume says, right? But, okay, prove it, right? So you give them a test, you able to evaluate if they can properly reply to this customer. It's a complaint. And you want to know, you give them some parameters, what the company offers or whatnot, whatever tools they have at their disposal, so to speak. And it's really a sink or swim sort of test. It reveals a lot. It'll tell you if somebody's profile is essentially a fake profile. They hired somebody to create everything about it, and you see what they actually write, you'll know immediately. So it's pretty awesome, and I think that makes or breaks a lot of our filtering, and it really condenses it down to the final and best candidates. So going into the, I guess, sort of interview section, or this is sort of a hybrid section. A lot of people have this concern, right, about a VA. They're asking this question. I'm going to address it because I know a lot of people ask. They say, what if my VA has an accent, right? And my answer to that is everyone has an accent. Everyone has a dialect. Accents are not a problem. If you think about it, every state from California all the way through Texas, it borders Mexico, most of Florida is in the same geographic region as the Caribbean climate-wise, right? So if you're from any of these states, you already have a rich Latin American influence that you already have ingrained into your culture, whether you know it or not. So embrace it. Most of your customers and your prospects already do. So what people are actually conflating when they're thinking about, like, what does my VA have an accent? What they're asking is, what is their English level, right? So there's like a way to define it. C2 English is specifically what you're looking for, and there's different ways to actually test for that. Give me a second. Anna asked, do they answer the email in real time? Yeah, they do answer the email in real time. Well, it's an email test. Ryan will actually talk more about that, so he'll let you know. So this right here, it's taken straight from a study. I can send you a link, but it's a very academic looking study. What you just really want to focus on is the fact that C2 is this proficiency. It's the purple one, fifth column from the left. And the higher you go, it's up there. You see it's Cambridge English proficiency. And that's what the C2 scale is, Cambridge English level. That right there is a conversational English. It's natural, it has natural intonation, metering. There are cultural differences that you have to consider, but that right there is what you're looking for. And then that's what you're looking to test. One of the other considerations that you have to take into account is like cultural differences, right? If you want to have someone who can actually talk to your customers and your prospects the same way that you would talk to your customers and prospects. They need to understand, common idioms. They need to understand references, because you're a local service business to your state. If you're from Arizona, a lot of places here are named after Spanish or Indian names, things like Papago and Pima and Yavapai, Paestawa, Hohokam. If you're not from Arizona, this actually kind of proves the point where you have no idea what I'm talking about, right? But if you're on the phone with one of the customers who lives in our state, and they say those things, you immediately have to kind of draw an understanding of what that customer's talking about. If somebody says Camelback and you're like, well, what did they say? They say Camelback. Can you spell that, sir? They're immediately going to think like, okay, this person's not from here. I can't trust them to clean my house if I can't trust them to find my house, right? So obviously hiring somebody who's not where you're from, that they're not going to innately know the local customs or traditions or sayings or words, but you want to hire somebody who can think quickly, who can think on their feet, who can learn quickly. And that's what this email test actually tells me, right? And that's what some of the recording actually tells me. So after that, going through that, we go through evaluation and filtering, and then that interview and the final selection, and we offer the job. The interview is the last thing that I'll actually dig right into. So, because I don't want to go over time, I want to give these guys time to be, I want the focus to be on them. Like I told you, I'm doing an overview. So these are pretty small, but some of these interview questions are actually going to tell you a lot about that candidate. And we actually tailor our interviews differently to the different positions we're hiring for. So you don't want to ask the basic questions, but you want to ask things that are really going to pertain to your business. So number 9, or number 8, how do you prevent customer complaints preemptively? I want you to not just say that you've done customer service for 10 years or not. You tell me how you know. Or number 9, how do you refuse an unreasonable customer request? Everybody has to deal with that, right? Especially in the cleaning business, like ladies like, hey, I got this bathtub that was built in 1930 and it's rusted to all hell. I need your cleaners to clean that. It's just like, how do you say that in nice customer service speak, right? What communication problems have you encountered in previous work situations? Not an if, but a when. I want to assume that you have. And if you tell me otherwise, I know you're full of BS, right? Yeah, Karina, I'll share the interview questions and I'll share the job description after this. So a customer calls in to cancel their recurring service because their last service was less than satisfactory. The customer says she received good service initially, but with the last couple of visits, the quality has been slipping. How do you handle this, right? So these are not your regular run-of-the-mill questions. These questions are actually judging their ability to actually deal with issues that you're going to encounter in your own business. Going to the second one, let's see. One of my favorites. Oh, number 21. What's the last thing you taught yourself, right? That question kind of stumps people sometimes, but this is something that you want to know. And then number 23, one of my favorite questions is, when's the last time that you irrevocably failed, right? And it's kind of a different spin on that traditional age-old annoying question. Yeah, well, what is your greatest weakness, right? But again, you're kind of testing for honesty there. Someone who says like, well, I never failed, or like it's taken them a while to recall when they failed. Again, this person is full of BS, right? Because everybody, right after you wake up or right before you go to sleep, you're just like thinking about something from 8 years ago that you did embarrassing, right? And it's like, come on now, everybody has that, right? But I also like the fact that irrevocably is in there, right? Yeah, that's kind of a little test. It's like a matrix word, right? If they don't bat an eye, they understand that, then you're understanding that there's a closer association with a C2 level of English proficiency, right? But more importantly, this right here gives you an opportunity for them to be an actual human, because when they go into it and like you see that they're being earnest and honest and like passionate, they're owning that failure. You're seeing things that you would not necessarily get from any other standard interview questions. So like I said, quick overview with this. After that, we do a final selection. Sometimes if Bridget, I'll typically do an interview by myself. Sometimes Bridget, that's my operations manager, she'll be there and we'll kind of split the questions. Or if I'm doing it by myself the first time, then she'll go in for like a quick 15 minutes. If she wants a little more insight, she asks questions in a different way than I do. And then after that, we'll make our final candidate selections for the job. And then we'll give our, consolation prizes, so to speak. So that right there is an overview of our process. And let me just go ahead and open the floor kind of quickly to questions. Let's see. If anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Okay. With that, I feel like I might have went over time a little bit, so my apologies. I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor to Ryan.
Hey, everybody. Okay, so the big thing, just to give a little background, I'm going to pull some of my notes in here. I know that when you put out kind of your VAs, you're getting a lot of questions about how you hired them, and you were getting a lot of questions specifically about a question you stole, or I might have volunteered from my process for hiring people. And I've shared this with a lot of companies, and a lot of companies seem to be getting a lot of use out of it. So it's been really fun to share, just kind of see that coming back. Specifically, what this question or test does is it tests for empathy. So you're probably thinking, why would it be important to test for empathy in the first place? Like, what's the point of that? Why are we even doing this? what I've found is that empathy is the key ingredient to answering or talking with a very angry customer in a way that after you've resolved an issue, they feel like they were heard. They feel like they had a good experience, even if the cleaning wasn't good, dealing with your customer service rep. So empathy seems to be kind of the key unlock here. I originally heard about this in some random blog post that I think disappeared off the internet, so I haven't been able to find it in the last couple of years. But the blog post was about a method that Disney theme parks use to solve customer issues, and it was called HEARD. It's an acronym for hear, empathize, apologize, resolve, diagnose. You've probably heard of something similar to HEARD. There's a lot of different versions of this out there. I've heard of one called LEAST, which is listen, empathize, apologize, solve, thank. I don't know about the LEAST part. It's kind of weird. There's another one called HEART, which is basically the same thing. Hear, empathize, apologize, resolve, thank. They all kind of revolve around the idea of hearing somebody out, empathizing with them. So the form that usually takes is something along the lines of, I'm so sorry that happened to you. If that happened to me, I'd be upset too. Apologizing to them and then working on a solution with them. So there's a million versions of this out there. The, HEARD method, LEAST method, HEART method. A lot of big companies use this. But so you can kind of pick whichever one you want to use, but the bullet points basically are all the same. So another question that I get a lot is, why would we even want to hire for empathy? It turns out that this is a really hard thing to do. So with this test that I have, about 98% of the people that go through my applications end up failing this test. I find that it's the biggest thing that, at this point, I literally just look at those emails and how they responded. I read those and they're in or out right away. And the ones that answer that right usually have everything else right, or answer in a way that I like. So it's really, really hard thing to do. Like I said, I go through about 100 applicants before one of them will answer the email the way that I want it to naturally. So I think the why we would want to find somebody who's empathetic instead of just trying to train somebody to be empathetic, which seems like the way easier solution. Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, had a really great quote on this. When he was asked how he trains his Starbucks staff to always be super friendly and nice and smiling, his answer was, we only hire employees who smile all the time. Basically, the moral of the story is you can't really teach somebody to smile. If they're not the type of person who smiles a lot or often, or can't help but smile and giggle and laugh, you're not going to be able to train somebody to do that. It's very similar with being empathetic. You can give people formulas and teach them how to do stuff, and they can kind of sometimes fake it a little bit. But when it's, the fifth day in a row of working and they're going on little sleep, they're not going to remember to do the stuff that you're training them to do. They're just going to kind of resolve back to their default, right? So hire empathetic people. That's kind of the moral, right? So let me see if I can share my screen and pull this up real quick. Okay. And I'm just going to make sure this goes on a screen that's easy enough to see. Hold on one second. Should have been more prepared. All right. Okay. So this is my actual customer happiness application. This is the test. So what I'm doing here is just having the person who I want as a customer service rep, as a VA, to answer this email, this real email that we got from a real client about a real issue in a way that is, empathetic. And if people want to see this, let me just see if I can post this in the chat real quick. I'll just put that link in there for everybody. And I see some, some things coming through the chat. I'm mostly ignoring the chat right now. So if Bridget or Marcus wanted to tag a couple of those that I can answer at the end, I'll make sure to answer everybody's questions. But so I'm kind of setting this up right in this thing. So the scenario I'm building for people, and the question is, you work with Tidy Casa and you received an email. I make sure that they know there's no wrong answer. We're being accused of damaging some property, and we just want to see how they respond. So the email specifically says, broken makeup item, contents of bag rearranged. Real weird email we got. Greetings, I got a cleaning yesterday and my girlfriend's makeup bag were obviously rummaged through. That's obvious. And the lid was broken on one of the items. Makeup spilled into the bottom of the bag. I've attached photos with the missing lid and the spilled makeup in the bottom of the bag. These are the actual photos they sent us. Then I give them a little bit of background information. So, the team's account of what happened, which is when I called the cleaning team, this is actually what they said to me. So you speak with the cleaning team who cleaned the customer's home yesterday. You tell them that the bag was they tell you the bag was in the bathroom while they were cleaning. They moved the bag to clean under it and then put it back where they found it. According to them, they didn't check inside the bag and wouldn't have had time to, even if they wanted to. They were busy that day. I give them a little bit more context. So this next bit is actually a red herring. So I tell them that you've got $100 to fix this issue if you want to. And then I tell them that we have a 200% happiness guarantee and kind of what that means. And then, I give them a little pro tips and some bonus points here, just because I want to give them some context around what we're looking for. I don't want to make it completely impossible. So if they can at least read instructions. And I tell them right here, use empathy when responding. Don't offer a solution to a problem they don't have. Your response should be easy to read and understand. And then, bonus points if they can solve it without wasting any money. And like I said, I posted that link in the chat. Everyone can go on there and take a look at that. But that's kind of the whole crux of what we're doing. And then what I'm looking for, the ideal solution or the ideal email to send in this case, if we're using that hurt or heart or whatever method, is something along the lines of, hey customer, I completely understand how frustrating this is. If this happened to me, I'd be upset too. I can't apologize enough that this happened. We've already followed up with the team to make sure this doesn't happen again. I've added some notes to your account to make sure future cleaning teams know not to move bags. If there's anything else we can do, let us know. As always, we're here to help. All the best, Ryan. That's kind of how I would get back to them. So if you kind of go back through that, I'm just saying, hey customer, I completely understand how frustrating this is. So I'm hearing them out. I'm listening to them. If you want to take this to the next level, say something about calling out the makeup bag specifically, like I would be, I'm so sorry that the makeup was, jostled. If this happened to me, I'd be upset too. That's the empathy piece. Can't apologize enough. That's the saying sorry and apologizing. And then offering some type of a resolution, even though in this case, there's not really a resolution. This customer, when I had to answer this email in real time, like 5-6 years ago when we got it, I stared at it for like an hour. I could not for the life of me figure out what they wanted, because the email doesn't say, I want you to replace this. I want you to come back and re-clean this. It doesn't say the cleaning was bad. It doesn't say that they want a gift card for Sephora or whatever. It literally just says, my makeup was jostled. And then they just kind of go dark. They don't give us anything that they want. So that just kind of leaves us with, okay, the email is specifically just asking to be heard out. So we ended up sending an email similar to that, and the customer was happy with the response and said, hey, thanks for, acknowledging this. And we did a couple more cleanings for them after that. They ended up not being a good fit, long story short, but you know, that's what I'm kind of looking for in that email. It's something along these lines where you work in that empathy piece. And a lot of people will naturally do a lot of this. They'll say, you know, I'm sorry that happened. Here's what we can do. I've gotten some really weird responses. I was kind of going through some of them just this morning, trying to pull out a couple funny ones. One of them that I got was, and I'm just going to read this verbatim. It's really weird. So the grammar, it's all in one line. There's no commas or grammar. And I'm like asking them to do a sample email, right? So it's hello, I, lowercase, deeply apologize that your makeup bag was rearranged. Give me just a second to go through, like I threw a ball, my information and see what might have had your items. That was the email that they sent us their sample. Bad grammar, things misspelled. Yeah. Another person just put, I would apologize for the inconvenience and ask what I could do to help. And it's like the instructions were very clear. Answer the email. Don't tell me what you would do. Do it. So just going through those, I can pretty much just hide every column for when I'm hiring and just go through and say, okay, who's got a decent email response to this really weird email that I had? And that tends to weed out about 90% of the people. So moral of the story is, you know, our customer service side, we have a very structured way that we respond to angry, upset, disappointed customers, which is the herd method for us. Hear, empathize, apologize, resolve, diagnose. The diagnose part would be like review it with my team and see what we could do different next time. And I've tried in the past to train people on how to do that. And if they don't do it naturally, it's next to impossible. So just making sure that they've got that somewhere in their DNA somewhere usually makes my job way easier when they get onboarded and actually start answering emails. So usually ready to do it pretty quick. So and that's really it. That's the whole the whole kit and caboodle of it. Any questions or comments? Let's go ahead and open that up. So Karina was asking for the sample email that is in the link. If you just go to tidycasa.com, if the link got lost in the chat somewhere, go to tidycasa.com, scroll all the way to the bottom. It's under the customer happiness rep, under the join our team in the footer. If not, I just reposted that link in there. Feel free to copy that, copy the photos, or go through your own emails. I mean, almost everybody's got some customer they've had just a really crappy time with. So pull whatever email that is and use that as your example. That's exactly what I did to find this one. So seeing if there's any other questions in here about, you know, Karina also says she has no empathy. So that's okay. You can fake it. I've been doing it for years. All right. Yeah, I'm not sure there's any other. Mark has a question that seems like it's probably more appropriate for everybody at the end. So unless there's any questions on, you know, this email thing or what I look for or other funny responses I've gotten, I guess I'll pass it back to you, Marcus, to go to the next,
Okay.
on to the next one.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
That was completely awesome. Everybody, you know, it should be obvious, you know, how well that email test works at filtering out and determining empathy. So I recommend you use it, not even optionally. If you weren't experiencing success before, you were experiencing difficulty before, or you were experiencing uncertainty after actually hiring somebody, this right here should change that dynamic, right? So with that said, we are going to move on next to Greg Shepard. Greg, how you doing?
Hey, thanks, Marcus. Doing really good. And I love VAs. I've been hiring VAs for over 10 years now. I think about 13, 14 years. I have 6 full-time VAs working for me right now, a few part-time VAs. And over those years, I've learned a few things about hiring VAs. So First, I'll talk about why you should hire a VA. Where should you hire a VA? The platform, and actually also where in the world you should find your workers. And finally, a little bit on how to hire them. So first, why hire a VA? Leveraging overseas talents is a godsend. It's a windfall. You are able to go into countries whose might have a lower cost of living. That means you can hire, or rather, you can offer more than the local companies. So you can attract the top talent while paying a fraction of the cost you'd otherwise have paid in the United States. Currently, we have 2 office managers that work remotely, and they are fantastic. Now, you were talking about earlier about the issue of accent, and if you look hard enough, you'll be able to find VAs in other countries that have no accent or a minimal accent. But anyway, that's for later on. Now, where do you hire VAs? First, I prefer Upwork. I would definitely check out Remote Co. I haven't heard of that site yet, but Upwork has been my go-to place. I've checked out other places before, but Upwork just has the volume and the tools that work out best for me. Now, where in the world do you want to hire a VA? The Philippines is very popular because the workers there are known to be honest and hardworking. The only thing is that you need to make sure that your job is well defined, because they're good at following directions, more so than actually taking the initiative and thinking through the problem. So if you have well-defined job, operation manual will be just fine. For me, though, I prefer the Western Hemisphere for a few reasons. Latin America in particular, because you want a VA who's in the same time zone. It's better for communicating with them. And I'm assuming that most people here are probably thinking about hiring a VA for taking calls or helping their teams in the field. So you definitely want somebody in your same time zone. Of course, you'll get VAs on the other side of the world saying working at night is no problem at all. It is a problem because it's stressful working at night, and you want to take away as much stress as possible. So I found that hiring the same time zone or similar time zone works best. For example, I have a lady, Jill, who works in Costa Rica. Now, if you talk to her on the phone, she sounds American, no accent whatsoever. And I think she said that she got that from her grandma, who's American. But anyway, she's never lived in America, but she sounds totally American. And before that, for Emily's Maids, office managers before that, all had no accents. So ideally, what I look for is definitely somebody who can speak perfect English that sounds like the girl next door. Latin America, I found the more success at. Mainly Mexico, probably because their culture is similar to my staff. A lot of our cleaners are from Mexico, but definitely Western Hemisphere. Now, where you don't want to hire, I found that South Asia tends to be a bit of a challenge. You talk about India, Nepal, places like that. The way they do business is a bit different, and sometimes you may not be able to trust their work or actually even who they are. But I would avoid South Asia and China and just focus on the Western Hemisphere. So how do you hire talent? I'll go through my pretty brief hiring process. Marcus did a good job in explaining, what to do in the ad. You want something, definitely you want to brag about your company. You want to tell them what's in it for them, of course, to find the job. One thing I do in the ad is I'll put down there somewhere, write I am your next rock star in your response. And I do that for a few reasons. One, I want to make sure that I actually read the job description. Two, I want to see can they follow directions, and are they able to pick up on details like that? So if I get a response that that says, that leaves out, I'm there. Excuse me. If they don't do that, then that pretty much leaves them out. Because as Marcus said, I think that you had 1,700 applicants through remote code. So you're going through a lot of people, and the best way to find quality is to go through the quantity, and you want to make sure your interviewing process is very efficient. So that's the first way to weed out the majority of applicants. Once I have the applicants that are promising, I will have them do a 3-minute video of just a little bit about who they are and ask them to show me their workspace. I do this because 3 minutes a limit. I don't have much time. I have to go through all these applicants. I want to see their English skills. How well do they speak English? I want to see their energy. Do they exert positive energy? And when I do get the videos, I'll actually do this. I'll just listen to the audio first and not watch the video, because you want to hear how they would sound on the phone. And so I'm looking for great English, no or little accent, and positive energy. So from there, if they make it down to the third stage, we'll do a quick one-on-one interview. And when I message them through Upwork, I'll mention that I just want to, let's have a quick chat, 5-minute chat, and have a little 5-minute phone chat. And I put that 5-minute constraint on there for a reason, because when you're conducting all these phone interviews, sometimes right away this is not going to work out. So given that 5 minutes interview, let them know beforehand that it's going to be 5 minutes to give me a reason to say, hey, all right, man, 5 minutes are up. Enjoy talking to you, and then hang up and go on to the next. So after doing this, you should have just a few top candidates. Now, before I hire them, I want to see the work. I want to see how they work. So I'll give the top 3 candidates a test job just for a week. This way, I'm able to see how they work, their quality, and how efficient they are. A lot of times by this point, those top 3 candidates will all be fantastic, and you can probably hire any one of those. Maybe one might stand out and you're able to hire them right there and then. But if all 3 candidates are top and hireable, the final step, which is this is invaluable, is to have them take a DIS assessment. I use a company called the Steering Group, and their website is thesteeringgroup.com. And you have them take this assessment, and the assessment is very accurate on describing their personality and who they are, along with empathy, Ryan. You're able to see who they are. And once they take this assessment, the great thing about hiring the Steering Group is that Joe, one of the reps there, will walk you through their DIS assessment after reading your job description and tell you why they would be excellent at this job. He'll be able to determine, help you decide who will excel and who simply is the best candidate. From there, I hire the best one, and that's pretty much my interviewing process. Oh, one last thing, and then I'll get off here. I wrote a blog post that I thought you might find helpful. Yeah, that's it. Okay, there it is. So on my website at Dallas Maids, I wrote a blog post just on our methods and how to hire virtual workers, what I look for, our hiring process, where I look for, along with some other things. So you might find this pretty useful. And with that, I will take questions.
And I just want to say really quick for people that haven't checked out Greg's blog, I've been on here often. It's awesome. He's got a lot of really cool stuff. So look through this link and look at all the other stuff he's got going on there. He's got a lot of good content on there.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. And if you scroll up here and on my blog, you can actually just, you probably want to go to my blog and you have an option to choose business advice. And that's what most people will probably find useful. There I share not only, how to hire a VA, but, things that we do here are policy procedures, methods, and such. All right, any questions? Why do I need so many VAs? Well, actually, I have 7 full-time VAs. I forgot the 7th one. I own Dallas Maids. I own Emily's Maids. I own Memphis Maids. Memphis Maids, I have Ruby. She's from El Salvador. From Dallas Maids, I have Norma, and she assists my office management staff in the office with calls and such. She can also cover for Angie, who works at Emily's Maids. And if Angie can't make the work, she can go right in. Jill, that I mentioned earlier, has worked at Emily's Maids, but I have promoted her to actually had her in HR. So now we have an HR department hiring for the 3 companies. Then I have Alex and Andre, and they're from Venezuela, and they help me with writing content such as basic blog posts up in the Google My Business, Facebook with some posts, and that's along with working on trying to get us into the news and such like that, things like that help us get some good backlinks for Dallas Maids. You're able to do so much more with less money by hiring VAs. Alex and Andres, they're paid $3.50 an hour, so $6 an hour total for 2 people doing a great job. And you're probably thinking $3.50 an hour, my God, you're cheap. But in Venezuela, where the salary, I forgot, I don't know what the average salary is, but 40 cents an hour, you're doing pretty good. $3.50, they are banking it in Venezuela. So that's why I have so many VAs. I also have a web guy, part-time, named Shane. He's from Jamaica. The person that did our YouTube videos on our channel, he's from the Philippines. He does a great job. And I think that's another part-time. I have another part-time writer that does some, work with me. But he's really good at writing copy that evokes an emotional response. And so there's times when that's appropriate in your copy. So I hope that answers your question. What was the name of the assessment? It's a DISC assessment, DISC, and you can go online, copy DISC assessment test and find ones online, but we use the steering group at thesteeringgroup.com for that, because their test is more extensive and their service is actually going over to the applicants and how they would perform the job has been invaluable.
I just wanted to say too, I really like the insight of going to South America versus Asia. I think a lot of people tend to default to the Philippines because that's kind of what we always hear in pop culture, but you can find a lot of really good help in South America and just about the same prices, if not less. I think a lot of like Indian and Filipino people are getting wise to the idea that we can afford to pay a lot more. So I really like that insight.
Yeah, and if I can add on to that, I have one VA that is in the Philippines. And it wasn't until I was going through Greg's content and I talked to Greg where he was like, yeah, check out South America. Not a lot of people thinking about it, the whole time zone thing. And it was like, oh yeah. Not to mention you get the benefit of a bilingual workforce. The majority of the applicants you talk to are bilingual. And if you, again, you're here, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Florida, it's obvious, right?
I think that's all the questions. So I guess I'll go ahead and hope there's one more.
Well, okay. Well, thank you for that, Greg. Let's see.
Thank you, guys.
All right, fantastic. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next presenter, Cristobal. And yeah, he's going to give you some pretty awesome information. So this time, let me go ahead and remember to spotlight him. All right, it should be spotlighted. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. Disregard my doorbell going off in the background. All right.
All right. Okay, guys. Well, Marcus, again, thanks for putting this together. I mean, listening to the other speakers, it really even like my brain right now is like so many ideas. I'm like, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. So this is awesome. So yeah, I'm gonna be sharing, the way I hire my VAs and essentially use software to help me with the pre-qualification process because you get a lot of applicants, like Marcus was saying at the beginning, and I literally use Google Forms, to do these automations. And I'm gonna, show you in a general overview how I do it, and then if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them at the end. So, all right, let's get started. Let me start sharing my screen. And let me know if you guys can see my screen.
We can see it now. Looking beautiful.
All right. So I'm gonna be teaching you my 6 easy steps how to hire a rockstar customer service VA from the Philippines, and a little bit about me. So I own Queen Bee Cleaning in Seattle. So we started in 2015 with my wife. We currently have 22 cleaners and 3 virtual employees, and our currently monthly revenue is like 120 per month. These numbers actually are, this year. Last year or pre-COVID, we were like 50, 60, but this year it's just been amazing. It's just so much work everywhere. So definitely a big opportunity here. And so in here, we're gonna teach you, three good tips. The number one mistake everybody makes when hiring a VAs, and how can you avoid it? The tech that filters, sorts, and qualifies the applicants automatically, and the secret to building the right relationship with your VA so they stick with you longer without leaving for your competition. So I get a lot of this question, like what can a VA do, right? This is an overview. I mean, they do a lot of stuff, but essentially, we're talking only customer service VA. They're, in charge of answering the sales calls, book jobs, reschedule jobs, cancel jobs, run credit cards, issue refunds, literally handle every message and complaint and respond to reviews. That's just like an overview, right? But there's so much more. But let's see how much can you save by outsourcing your customer service VA to either the Philippines or South America. So let's say you have a $15 per hour office person, $15 per hour, time, full time. You're talking a $28,000 salary. A virtual employee in the Philippines is $450 an hour, 40 hours per week. That's $8,600 total salary. So that's a savings of $20,000 that goes directly to your bottom line. And there's no payroll taxes associated with it, which we all know add up. So my simple step, I only use one site. It's called Online Jobs PH. I've tried to use Upwork, and it seemed to be like the applicants, they're trying to charge more. So in my case, what works for me, it's Online Jobs PH. And what I do here, actually, I take him off from Online Jobs PH and I have him email me. and respond in a specific way. I'm gonna go into detail how what my job post looks like and how the automation kicks in. But essentially, after they send me an email applying, they're gonna receive a canned response where I'm gonna redirect them to a Google form. In that Google form, they have to answer a few questions. I want to know more about them, who they are, what do they do, what are their hobbies. I really want to have a better picture of them, before hiring them or even talking to them. The Google form is literally gonna do most of your work, because when you close the job, then you're gonna look only for the people who answer in a specific way. I'm gonna show you exactly what it is. Then from there, it's really easy. You're gonna have a handful of applicants who paid attention, who actually responded correctly, and then from there you can do the Slack interview. I like to do a Slack interview first before the Zoom or Skype interview. And the reason I do that is because I want to see how quickly are they to reply. I really want them to be on their feet. So the first interview is Slack, and I have like the script and everything. So the questions is like, hey, tell me about yourself. And I just look at how long they're taking to respond. That really tells me an idea if they're quick and they think on their feet. Then out of that, then I filter even more, and then from there I can go on and do the Zoom interview in person and find out who is the best fit for my company. So let's actually go and show you a little bit of how that process works. So let's go. So this is the job post I have, right? Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. We're looking for someone who wants to answer the phone calls between 8 and 4, Monday to Friday, and 8 to 2 on Saturday. You have to be a fast learner, great communicator, calm and collected under pressure, right? I tell them how much it's going to be to start. It's going to be raises every 6 months and performance bonuses every 3 months. And then here's where everything starts, right? How to apply. So send an email to my personal email with the subject line, I want to be a call center agent. Very important. Please include a link to your online job profile within the email when you apply, and complete the Google form that you will receive. Note, after you send the email to apply, you will receive a response and a link to a Google form. Please complete the questions on the Google form. Forms that are not completed or partially completed will be taken into consideration. In the form, you'll be asked your age. Answer 40 to prove that you have attention to detail. That right there is going to filter so many people that you wouldn't believe. So what happens now, if we go to my email, this is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the templates, right? But essentially you can create templates inside your Gmail. So what I do, I create a canned template essentially, and this is what I have. Say, hey, thank you. If someone sends me the email, right, applying for a job, and if they don't type, I want to be a call center agent, the automation doesn't kicks in. They have to literally do what I tell them to do. At that point, if they do it right, they're going to receive this email saying, hey, here's the Google form, click here, you have 24 hours to respond, and the time starts now. When they click this link, right, essentially we're going to send them to this page. And it's literally a simple Google form. A few questions. Hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What are your hobbies outside work? And what's something that is interesting about you, right? How long have you been working in customer service related jobs? Can you please describe your customer service experience with the past clients in the past 2 years? What specific software do you use? What tasks do you handle for them? Email, phone, live chat, etc. Right? What is your greatest strength as a customer service? What do you have the most experience with? Do you have any experience working in a client that has a similar business to mine? I really want to see maybe, they work in a home service business. That's going to be fairly simple to train them. How many clients do you currently have, right? There's a lot of these VAs that work for multiple people. I don't want anyone to be working for other people. I want them to work for me. I really want them to be my employee. So that's very important to know. We're looking for someone who can work Monday to Friday, 8 to 4 Pacific Standard Time. Does that work for you, right? We're looking to hire this role at $4.50 an hour. Are you okay with that rate? What is your age? Remember, this is very important. If they answer their age, obviously they didn't pay attention, they just quick read it. And obviously, you're looking for someone who has attention to detail, to be honest. Make a long video of your internet connection using this website, fast.com. I really want to see that they have a good internet speed, because essentially we're going to be doing the voice calls over internet, so they have to have a reliable speed. And then I have them upload almost like Mark was saying, tell me something about yourself, like 30 seconds, right? Don't do a script. I really want to listen how you sound and how you come across, because that's very important to me. Full name and email, right? So now let's take a look at the responses. Let me show you. So when I posted this job, I got 137 applicants. You can see it here. So quite overwhelming. I'm like, oh my God. But if they do everything correct, right? This spreadsheet is being created by the form. And if you pay attention, this question was like, what is your age? And they had to answer 40, right? So look, so there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people who actually responded correctly. And out of the 130 plus, only 41 actually did it correctly. So at that point, you're like halfway done. All you need to do is actually contact these people, the ones that did reply correctly, answer correctly. You're gonna listen to their their voice and then also their internet connection. At that point, then you reach out to them back by email manually and say, hey, book your final interview. So essentially is this, oh God. Actually, there you go. So that will be the second email, right? So it's gonna say, hey, you're one of my final candidates. I would like to schedule an interview in Slack. Book your interview here. And essentially this is a link to your calendar, whatever software you use. And then after that, you create automation that everyone that books on that calendar to send an invite through Slack. Okay, so from there, you're gonna have probably in a day you can interview all of them. And what you're looking for, it's really that I have a set of questions, and all this document that I have here is literally instructions and manual that I did and how to do it. It comes with the email templates, the job post, literally everything I'm showing you, and then I'll tell you where you can download it. But essentially, this is the Slack interview. Pretty much, you go over like, tell me a little bit of about yourself. What do you do? What is your experience? Blah 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 blah. I'm telling you, after this, you really want to make sure that, hey, I'm paying $4.50 an hour. Are you 100% with that rate? I don't want you to come in a month and say, hey, it's hard. I think I want to raise. I don't want that. I'll be upfront. I'm telling you exactly how much you're gonna get paid, and then if that works for you, then we can continue. And then I'm telling you guys, after you do an interview in the Slack, you're gonna have a really nice gut feeling on who you want to hire. You're gonna look for how long they take to respond, right? How long, what are the answers? If essentially you want to make sure that it's a good fit for your company. All you need to do after this, and then really you're gonna really have a very good feeling and say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to these other people. Now let's go and do a Zoom interview or a Skype interview, and then you can actually see them in person, and then make the final decision whether that's a good fit or not. And so just kind of wrap things up. I mean, this is a little bit of how I train them. Actually, let me go back. So this is one mistake that I see a lot, when I see people trying to hire a VA. They really want to hire a VA that is, knows how to do web design, knows how to use email marketing and Photoshop and create websites. If you think about it, this is a very specific position, and I don't really care if they don't know how to use those softwares. I just want them to be really good on the phone. That's it. If they happen to have more skills, then great, right? It's rare, but there's people that have a lot of knowledge, so you might get lucky. So essentially, don't expect to hire a person that knows everything. Just focus on customer service, and that's it. In my case, my first BA, she used to work for Chase, handling credit card disputes. When she told me that, I'm like, she's perfect. She's handling constant complaints all the time. She knows how to handle. So that's, and now she knows how to do more stuff because I've been teaching it, over time. But she really only came with customer service experience. And okay, so how do I do it, right? And how do you let someone take the the wheel of your company? So in my case, I give them access to my email and then access to my Ring Central. And I have, for the first week, I don't want you to do anything. Go and read every single email response I ever made in the last 3 months, because I really want you to see how I respond and what was the tonality I use to talk to my customers. Do the same thing with the phone calls. Go and listen the last 3 months. Listen to every single one so you get an idea. At the same time, I give you my sales script, right, and my email templates for the most common responses. And then once that they're going through the listening to everything, then I can start letting them reply. But before letting them reply, the very first week, I actually tell them, just create the reply, but don't send it. Let me read it. And then if I'm okay with it, then you can send it. After a week, you can literally let the hands go, and then they can take from there. So it doesn't really take too much time. One thing that I like to do, create a company culture. It's hard to create a company culture in person, so online it's a little bit more challenging. So the way I do it, I really congratulate them every day. Every day I tell them, hey, you did a fantastic job. What can I do, to make your your job easier? Is there a software that you think might help us to do a better job? I am always listening to them, and that they really appreciate that. They're like, oh, they're taking in consideration, my feedback. So that really gives them a sense of security, and then always listen to them. You got to remember, a lot of these people have worked for big companies in the U.S. Chase, Nike, whatnot. They actually have used software that's probably more advanced than the one we use, so they can literally teach a lot of stuff that you wouldn't even be aware of. So that's just to keep in mind, right? And if you want to know, the list, the instructions, all the templates, all the software that I use, just go to customerserviceva.com. It's totally free, don't charge anything. You sign up. It's gonna send you my essential standard operating procedure on how to hire. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help you. So with that done, I would like to open the mic to see if there's any questions.
While the questions are trickling in, I just want to say I really love the insight about asking them to put their age as 40.
Mm-hmm.
So smart, because
It
totally
really filters a lot of people.
yeah. Oh wow, I love any question that you can filter like 90% of people with. It's great.
That's right.
Great insight.
Mm-hmm. Well, can somebody help me? There's any questions? Let's see. Let me read it. How do you deal with power outage? Good question. I actually bought him a power generator. That actually happened the very first week. They lost power. They lose power a lot, constantly. It's an island, so there's bad weather all the time, typhoons, whatnot, and so what I did, and it's up to you, right? If you really want to make the investment, I told them, hey, how much does a power generator cost? $800. Buy it. I mean, I really want you to be online. It's very important to me. One of those jobs could be worth more than $800. So yeah, definitely get that. So that's how I do it.
Absolutely. And let me just add to that, like they were asking about the internet and power outages. Yeah, you have that. Now, just keep in mind, you'll understand that there's a baseline, a benchmark where they'll have outages. And then people over near the South China Sea, if you're talking about in the Philippines, will experience similar weather patterns, typhoons and whatnot. But you more than likely know other people who have VAs in the Philippines. You
Mhm.
more than likely know people already. I believe here in this panel, there's a couple of people I recognize are actually VAs themselves, right?
Mhm.
Um, and if one of your VAs is BSing you, right, and they're just like, hey, I'm in Manila or Cebu City and like the power's out and like, you see the other VA you know on Facebook right now that's in
Yeah.
Manila. It's like, oh, okay. I'm just saying. Another thing you might deal with is roosters.
Yes, yes, great. Yes, that's true. We don't usually have farm, and there's chickens and dogs, and you can hear them.
Yeah, you'll hear, and the same thing in the Caribbean. You'll hear goats and stuff, right? Like you don't know what a goat sounds like until you hear a goat, right? Like, oh, okay. Like
Yep.
sometimes they scream like people. It's
That's
interesting.
That's true.
But
And then so my tip to prevent that, because the first time I listened, like, is that a rooster in the background? No, it is a rooster. And I'm like, well, I don't want that. Okay. And there's a software called CRISPR. Let me actually share my screen, or I'm gonna put that on the chat.
yeah, it's crisp AI.
Crisp. There you go. With
Yeah.
Kate. It works beautiful. I don't have to do with that anymore, but I'm gonna put it on the chat.
So what does Crisp AI do?
I'm sorry, say that again.
But what does Crisp AI do? He said, does it cut
Oh,
out
so
chicken
essentially it's a
noises?
filter. So you install it, and then essentially filters the background noise from your microphone. Fantastic. I've tried it here. Like I told my kids, yell, and like my other person like can't hear anything. It's fantastic. So you can either buy a microphone that has a background noise cancellation, but they're very expensive.
Mhm.
You can use this software, and it's so much easier.
Yeah. So if you go, you shared the link to Crisp AI. If you go to the Crisp AI homepage, there's actually a demo, like right on there. You'll see a barking dog, and like you mute it, and like that's happening in real time. The way I actually discovered Crisp was, thank you for sharing your screen. The way I discovered Crisp was my VA. His name was Adrian. He's in the Philippines, and he calls me. I think it was on Slack, and I'm like, "What's up, man?" He's like, "Listen to this." And he's bumping California Love by Tupac, right? Other story. It's like, hey, I guess Tupac has worldwide exposure or whatever. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, you should be taking calls right now. It's a little personal, but he's like, okay, now listen to this. I'm like, okay, I just hear you talking. He's like, I didn't turn the music off. I'm like, what?
Yep, it's crazy.
And then he turns it back on. And that the speaker is just right next to him, and it's completely filtering out Tupac.
It's amazing.
And the whole song, and it's just him talking. It's ridiculous.
It's amazing. It's very impressive. Marcus is absolutely right. So yeah, no, definitely this is the software that I use, because it happens. There's background noise all the time. And I was reading one of the questions and say, how do you monitor them? The way I monitor, what are they doing is through this software. It's called HubStat. And what it is, it's you get charged per VA. So essentially, it's like $7 per month. And what it does, they download this software into their app, into their computer. And what it does, it takes screenshots, of their screen. So it tells whether they're active. It takes they're active, or there's like nothing going on. They're not doing anything. So it really tracks you everything. And then also, essentially, I use it to calculate how much I pay them at the end of the pay period. So I pay them the 5th and on the 20th. So I just calculate, okay, they have this much hours, and then you can just connect Wise, which is what I use to pay them. So with this software, like literally you connect both, you approve the hours that they work in HubStat, and then this sends the money, and then they get the money within like 30 minutes. So it's like pretty cool stuff. All right, let's see. We have more questions.
I think those two softwares alone are worth the cost of admission here. That's good stuff.
Yes. Yeah, Bonus says, yes, I actually, so I don't offer him healthcare, right? But I do offer raises every 6 months. If the company is doing well and the sales are going up, there's no reason for me not to give them a raise, really. And then to motivate them, right, to give them, even that extra boost so they can, try to achieve even more. Every 3 months, I check their performance with hub staff. So I see, okay, they're inactive most of the time. They're always responding. They're quick to respond. And I give them like another. So the way I do it is this. So in the Philippines, you have to pay a 13 months. So essentially, it's a full month's worth of salary. That's in Christmas. The way I do it, I actually do it differently. I said this is going to be based on performance. So every 3 months, I'm going to be paid. So essentially, I divided the full whatever, $900 or $700, whatever their salary is, and then I divided that in 4 parts. So every 3 months, they get access to that bonus. What are those red flags when hiring a VA? Well, if they take too long to respond on Slack, obviously, you kind of want to avoid that. You really want someone that is always like quick to respond. So definitely just look for how long they take to respond. And that would be a big red flag for me. Just been consume record a video. Okay, I think that's it, right? So I think there's no more questions.
Okay. Let's see if we can go to some of the general questions.
There's one more question. So do you have a team leader that is a VA? Yes, that I do. But when I started, she was the first lady, and then she learned everything. She always like, hey, how to do this? She was actually coming to me like, what else can I do? What else can I do? So I kept giving it more and more, tasks. And essentially, she's like, hey, I think we need a second person, because during the mornings between, I want to say between 10 a.m. to like 1 p.m., we get like a lot of calls. So if she's on the phone, I needed to have like a backup guy. So, forward the call to the other person if that one person is on a call already. So yes, I said, hey, I didn't want to deal with the hiring again. I said, you already know how everything works. You train them. It will be under your umbrella. You pay them essentially whatever you want. I'll pay you the same, and then you can even make a little bit of money because you're essentially going to be managing it. And then I only have to deal with that one person. I don't want to deal with multiple people. So essentially, yeah, she becomes my manager for the customer service.
Let's see. So what's the best VA related, or Mark is asking, what's the best VA related decision you've made and what's the worst?
What is the best what?
The best VA decision you've made and what's the worst?
Oh, what is the best decision I made? Definitely outsourcing the customer service. I used to do everything, and my friend, I was losing hair. Yeah. Like literally, because it's challenging, right? My wife is actually doing the jobs in the field and get a customer yelling like, "Hey, that team did a horrible job!" Wow, you're talking about my wife, and I'm like just trying to keep my cool. And so that really like was getting to me, and sometimes I would have like miserable days, and like, damn, you just like this customer just cannot make him happy no matter what, and so. Essentially doing that step, right? It's a little scary, especially because I did everything from the beginning. So we started from nothing, and then when we were growing, I was fearful of let that go because I thought nobody can replace me. I am the only one that know how my business works, right? And it's really hard. It's scary. It really is. So what I did, I started, making videos using Loom, of how to make a booking, and then I make a video of that, and how to charge a credit card, and then I'll make a video of that. And then I knew that I really knew like making standard operation procedures was the way, but so many things that you're doing on a daily basis is really kind of hard to make that time, right? But essentially I pushed through and made that, and then that's when I said, okay, I'm gonna hire someone, and I wanted to do it right. So all these things that I show you, really, I think I bought like 4 courses. They're very expensive, and obviously I learned one from each other, right? And I came up with my own model that it was specifically for me. So, don't share all of this stuff, guys, because it really is like, this is like the golden key to get, not only customer service, but, I also have a marketing guy now in charge of that. I have a copywriter. So you can outsource all these different things. My goal for next year is actually outsource my accounting, and essentially pretty much just run it as much as possible with virtual assistants, and essentially just focus on growing the business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To answer one of the questions I see, I think one of my worst decisions, well, one of my best decisions was my VA, Sheila. She's actually one in the Philippines who documents most of our processes now. If anybody saw my process documentation sort of presentation, we're a real stickler about that. And she learned how to write processes like I write them, refine the errors I made, and then completely take it over. And she's like developing a voice, and then she's spreading that culturally to the rest of my VAs. So everybody has this culture of documenting their processes. Mm-hmm. And I can't even explain how valuable that is. My worst decision is one of the VAs I found that was literally outsourcing her job to a completely different person. So,
no, that's crazy.
Right. Look,
I thought I heard it all. I thought I heard it all.
Right. Look, you get points for creativity, but I mean, who's answering my phones, right?
That's so funny, man. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, to answer to add to that, so in the worst decision I made when it comes to VAs is my first VA was not from the Philippines. He was a friend. This friend used to live in Idaho. He moved to Mexico. He found a girlfriend, and then I told him like, hey, dude, will you be interested in answering the phone call for me? Obviously, he said yes, and I thought it was a good idea. So don't hire friends, because essentially what happened, someone along the lines, the friendship and business kind of gets blurred. And I remember he was kind of like, hey man, you're making this much money and I'm only getting paid, like $800 a month. And, and I'm like, well, that's not an attitude, man. I'm going to pay you more, but, essentially. So it was always kind of like weird. And then essentially, it just didn't work out. So I will try to avoid friends, really. It's a fine line, and it gets blurred very easy.
Yeah.
There's actually one question. Let me read them.
Yeah.
All right, so let's say your VAs deal with your employees. They do. So what I do to do that, I use Slack. So I have a Slack account. I have my VAs in there, and then I have a channel with all my cleaners. And so what I do, sometimes they cannot access a home, or the code is not working, or can't find parking, whatever the issue might be, right? They post that on the chat, and then they take care of it. They only really reach out to me if there's something that they cannot find a solution or they don't know the answer to, then they'll reach out to me. But yes, they take care of all the communications with the cleaners. Any issues or they break something, they're in charge of that. Let's see. Does your OM deal with employees, or British manager deal with employees? Yes, they do. So I just answer that. Can you share something you know now you wish you knew before regards to VA? just that, man. I mean, you save so much money outsourcing the customer service, and it's not, like I said, not only customer service. You can outsource a lot of stuff from your business and really make run it like a big machine. You can have a person doing outreach on LinkedIn. You can do, cold emailing, cold outreach, copywriting, blog posting, literally everything, and just at a fraction of the cost. How do you deal with all the public holidays in the Philippines? Great question. To be honest, when I read that article that they have so many holidays, I was like, oh no. But honestly, they didn't even ask me for it. We work. I asked them, hey, you wanna, we do respect the ones from here, from the US, but the ones that from there, they're like, they don't, they're getting paid, they're making money.
Right. Well, yeah, no, one of the things I want to add on is, I guess one of the things I wish I knew in the beginning, and one of the things I think can be beneficial to everybody, is don't be afraid to start using VAs. Like I said, I know a lot of people have questions. You're like, well, what can they do for my business? What departments can they work in? Can they handle sensitive credit card data? Can they deal with employees? Can they deal with workers? Can I, let them in my HR software? What you want to do is find out what's one of the pain points that you're currently having. What's taking up the most of your time? What's the stuff that you don't like to do? And find a VA who has specialization in that. Like Cristobal was saying, you're not looking for a VA who can answer the phones and also do Photoshop and Canva and do a little web development, and give your ankle massage. You want to find a specialist. We have a VA specifically for HR. And we were getting just beat up by, to answer another question, we do work with independent contractors. We're trying to make the transition over employees. I think Mark, I think Greg has a hybrid model because he has 3 VA companies and he has some interesting stories. He could definitely tell you about that. But yeah, not having a bench, when the contractors start acting up, and especially, it's a seasonal business. Once Christmas starts rolling around, all you have to do is exist and everybody's in demand. In Easter, same thing, spring cleaning, all you have to do is exist and there's a ton of demand. So your contractors start filling themselves and they're just like, what do I need Made Easy for, right? So, it's cyclical though. And then when that dip, it's just like, because they don't know customer service, they don't know quality management, they don't answer the phone, they don't have a 200% guarantee, their recurring or the regulars sort of leave and now they're looking back at you. Have somebody who can constantly be focused on that HR process, if that's what one of your pain points is. If customer service is one of your issues, have somebody focused on that. In HR, that goes from payroll to performance management, all that. And yeah, if my beard starts getting gray, like it gets gray in patches, right? These represent each of the respective departments of the business. This one right here is hiring. Yeah, no, if you have those pain points, start looking for a VA and they'll solve your problem.
Yeah.
Solve the problem for yourself.
Yeah, Marcus, let me add on to that and also answer Karina's question. Karina, you were asking about doing something similar for hiring cleaners. At the beginning of the year, we had a surge of demand and we needed a lot of people. And it was an opportunity for us to do a couple things. One, to refine our hiring process. We wanted something that was efficient, quick, so we could identify the talent quickly and hire them before our competition. But as Marcus mentioned, we also hired somebody to do HR full time. And get your pen and pencil ready. This is what we do. We put the ads everywhere. And there's some places in Dallas that the classified ads work better in bringing people in than others. But the object is to get as many calls as you can, because only through getting all the quantity you can sift through to get the quality. They would call in our HR person. At the time, his name was Alberto, living in Venezuela. He would answer the calls. How we did it was we would have the most often deal breaker question at the top, with followed by another deal breaker question, another deal breaker question. The object of the call was to find any reason to get off the phone ASAP. You don't want to waste their time and you don't want to waste your time.
Mm-hmm.
This would narrow down to maybe 4% of the callers getting through the process and actually being invited for a job interview. And Alberto will tell them why they were so awesome and why we wanted to have them for a job interview. And so the ones that were getting in our office were all already quality. One other thing we do that's very important is that once they're in the office, we wanted to get them out with one of our teams and see how they work ASAP. We call it an audition. And they're not hired. We hire them as a contractor. But this way, they're with one of our top teams. They see how they work. And we know whether they clean or can't clean, or whether they have potential to be a 9 or 10 out of 1 out of 10 cleaner. This has cut back our training process from 2 weeks to like 1, 2, 3 days, and has lowered our turnover rate substantially. So we know they clean good, and we know that they'll be here for a long time. And now we're good. We have all the cleaners that we need.
Yeah, thank you for that, Greg. That's absolutely essential. What was I gonna say? That reminds me of a method I was looking at in your blog post. Well, one of your mini blog posts, like Ryan said, there's a bunch of gold in there. I think I can't remember exactly which one it is, but yeah, you do actually go into more depth on that in one of your posts. If you know off the top of your head, you can share it, but yeah, that's valuable.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure it's in there somewhere. But one, hiring somebody to filter through the calls. We only have quality applicants, and two, the audition. Those have been the two biggest things in hiring the best people and keeping them.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. John is asking how to make sure that all the information stays confidential when you're hiring a VA, like the customer info, access to the system. From our perspective, it's not something that you should necessarily be worried about. It's
I'm gonna say that. Yes.
yeah, they're going to be
You're
accepting credit
thinking-
card info on the phone.
Yeah, yeah. Because you gotta remember, I mean, worst case scenario, let's say, the way I see it, right? They pay with a credit card. Credit cards have, protection. Let's say they get stolen, whatever, right? They're gonna get their money back, right? So I think, worrying on that part, I think it's, you shouldn't be really thinking about that. It most likely is not gonna happen. I mean, you take care of them, they get paid good money. They're not gonna do something like that.
Yeah, and they have a disincentive to kind of be a criminal, especially
Right.
like if you're hiring in a country where like the average minimum wage is like $5 a day and you're paying $5 an hour, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. And that's permanently ruining their reputation. Word spreads fast. BPO industry is a thing. Businesses share this info with each other. So hopefully that answers your question, John.
All right, everyone. I hate to be this guy, but I got a hard stop coming up in a couple minutes, so I got to jump off.
Cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. You're correct. It's coming up on 2 hours. So I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you everybody who attended. Sorry for everybody whose questions couldn't be answered. This recording is going to be available. I don't know if we can make a forum available for anybody to ask any additional questions, but we'll try to figure something out. I hope everybody who attended did get a lot of value out of this event.
A lot of really good insights from everybody. So I was blown away, and I was presenting. So
I sure did. It really it's awesome. This this really opens your mind to multiple stuff. It really does.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. And thank you guys. Thank you guys for attending. I went straight to the source, and I hope everybody found the same value I found in each of your respective pieces or bodies of information. For anybody who wants to know if there's going to be a recording, everybody who signed up, who left their email in Zoom, recording will be sent to you automatically once it's ready. So yeah, thank you again.
on behalf of everybody, thank you, Marcus, for organizing this. You're a mensch. It's good stuff.
Thank
Thank you, my man.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. You
appreciate
guys are great. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Oh,
All right. Thank you, Karina.
All right, thank you
Everybody.
all.
have a good weekend.
All right, folks.
Have a
Take
good
care.
weekend.